When you have multiple aircraft under your jurisdiction, air traffic control quickly becomes a multiple choice test. Training up until this point through the A side and the D side has taught you LOA and SOP items, so you have a basic understanding of how to facilitate traffic in the San Juan FIR. That means you know that you have to descend aircraft and have them make certain crossing restrictions, comply with D side restrictions or any clearances that they've administered, climb aircraft out of approach controls, departing aircraft, getting them up to their cruising altitude. You might have weather that you're going to approve deviations. You're going to provide approach control services to aircraft at some of the airports in Sector 8, Ponce, Mayaguez, and Borinquen. You are going to have VFR aircraft call for advisories. You might even have VFR aircraft call you and ask for an IFR pickup. All of this is very demanding on the sector team, and only so much of it can be divvied up to the other two people on the team. A lot of it falls on your shoulders as the radar controller. Now, you might ask yourself, what's my priority? And that is indeed the name of today's presentation, because we want to help you out. We understand that you have a baseline level of knowledge, the things we just talked about. I believe that you know how to do that already, but now, whenever you are faced with multiple things that demand your attention, how do you divvy that up? Well, you're in luck because it is a perfect combination of both technique and actual fundamentals that are rooted, in the .65. The 7110 is very clear on some things, but it leaves some latitude for you to have artistic license, if you will, and to make those decisions yourself, which makes this career actually a lot of fun because a lot of it is up to you constantly scanning, moving from task to task, and figuring out which task merits a higher priority than the other. So today, really happy you're here. We will examine some things in the book of the actual rules, some of the non-negotiables that we actually have to take care of by the book, and then all the rest of the items are up to you and how you decide to negotiate as you make your way from task to task. And after we're done examining the book, we will go through a radar session, a quick radar session where we are faced with just multiple things to do, multiple service items that we have to administer to the aircraft in the Sector 2 and 8 environment. And it'll be up to you to either take this information and help that kind of be implemented into your workflow, or just give you some ideas of what to expect. Again, really happy you're here. Let's take a look at the next slide and dive into the .65. I'll see you there. It should come as no surprise that something as fundamental as priorities is laid out in Chapter 2 of the 7110.65, General Control. If you've ever stopped by our channel before, you'll know that your humble narrator absolutely loves that chapter because it very much sets the stage up for the play that we are about to put on. It's a very early section of that chapter as well, 211 ATC service. The subparagraphs read as follows. The primary purpose of the ATC system is to prevent a collision involving aircraft operating in the system. Boom. That is our marching order. That is our primary objective. We are here whenever we plug in and sit down and sign in position to ensure that aircraft do not trade paint. They do not collide into one another. We are the referees to keep them apart from each other in a very safe and positive manner. Now, after we have satisfied that basic objective, which sometimes, depending on the day, is pretty easy, sometimes not, we have additional items. They are secondary and tertiary, but they are not far behind our primary objective. Certainly the crown jewel is A, but B and some of the other things that we're going to talk about in the succeeding slides follow close behind. Subparagraph B reads, in addition to its primary purpose, the ATC system also 1. Provides a safe, orderly, and expeditious flow of air traffic. We alluded to this in the title slide. Everything that you have learned about your facility, everything you've learned about San Juan CRAP, when you study your LOAs, whenever you study your SOP, when you know what aircraft need, they need to be climbed, descended, crossing restrictions, VFR advisories, other services, everything else that you have come to know and what are characteristics and inherent to our individual facility, all of that stuff falls under number 1. Secondly, We support national security and homeland defense missions. Very simple. We have a large user base, most of it civilian, and we are a civilian branch of the federal government, but we certainly support defense missions because they are a huge, absolutely huge customer when it comes to using the ATC system, and national security as well. Homeland defense, border patrol, all kind of interesting users and very unique, and a vast variety of users utilize our services. So they have some prominence as well. Now, we will explore further sections of Chapter 2 and start getting into the details. But if you can take anything away from what we just talked about, just remember, our primary objective is to ensure that aircraft don't collide into one another. We have a semblance of safe, orderly, and expeditious flow. That means good sequencing, efficient use of the airspace, ensuring that aircraft are separated but minimally separated so we are not wasting any of their resources, and all the while supporting defense initiatives and law enforcement vis-a-vis national security. Looking forward to taking a deeper dive into the next slide. Let's further this subject. I'll see you there. Now that we've established our primary mission statement to make sure that aircraft do not collide into one another, and that we're supporting homeland security and national defense, and being good stewards of the NAS as we conduct ourselves in a safe, orderly, and expeditious manner whenever it comes to controlling traffic, we can explore the additional subparagraphs of 211. Subparagraph C states that the ATC system must provide certain additional services to the extent permitted. The provision of additional services is not optional on the part of the controller, but rather required when the work situation permits. It is recognized that the provisions of these services may be precluded by various factors, including but not limited to, and let's stop right there. 1. This paragraph acknowledges that we are only human. The sector team is only so large. There is only one radar controller per sector. That is one set of eyes, one set of ears, and we are always going to be outnumbered, unless we only have one aircraft on frequency, by pilots. And we understand that all of them are going to have requests and things that are needed to be done, but there is only one of us. Now, there is no set quota the FAA sets per controller. Say, hey, you're going to only work 15 airplanes an hour, or 16 aircraft are your limit, no more. We have no such order, and we have no such policy. It's relative. It's relative to the skill level. I think we can all agree that a controller who has just got checked out on their first two radars has a vastly different threshold and skill level than a 20-year veteran. So this paragraph kind of acknowledges that. Whenever you have food on your plate, eat what's on your plate and come back for more. But the thing is, it's not optional. We always are taking on additional responsibilities as we can, as our skill level and experience dictates. And that is relative and subjective. And it's something that we are constantly harping folks to continue to improve upon. Session after session, busy day after busy day, you will get better at taking on more responsibility and understanding where your limit is. This paragraph aims to address that. Now, they also recognize that the fact that the field or the stage, the metaphor we sometimes use, is not always set the same way every time, because dynamic factors such as volume of traffic. I think we can agree, again, based upon our skill level, what might be busy to you is different than my definition of busy. Or what I consider to be a lot of aircraft is different than you. And certainly when you throw things like weather or turbulence and bad rides into the mix, 5 airplanes can feel like 30 airplanes because of all the talking you're doing, approving deviations, aircraft reporting back on course, and you acknowledging that, then they need to deviate once more, especially during the weather season. That also causes, number 2, frequency congestion. Again, you are getting constantly shellacked by requests for better altitudes, smooth altitudes, ride reports up ahead on days when there's turbulence. So again, some days it's so hard to get a word in edgewise because you are constantly giving transmissions and moving from one aircraft to the other. Quality of surveillance. We're an island facility. The fringes of our radar capabilities or the extent of the ranges, sometimes we have to default to non-radar procedures. which take up a little bit more of our mental bandwidth because we're simply not looking at an aircraft on the display. We are deducing their position with flight progress strips using some mathematical equations, plus times, minus times, trying to pinpoint where these aircraft are, possibly getting relayed information from New York radio, all possible. And again, something that warrants a little more attention than when things are operating normally. Controller workload, another subjective term. And we kind of hit this point when we talked earlier in this slide that whenever you're a new developmental, controller workload might be high. What a 4-tie sequence at Slugo might take up a developmental who is newly certified on their first 2 radar sectors. That might take up a lot of their time and attention figuring out a 4 aircraft sequence at Slugo where they need to be 15 miles apart, complying with a seasonal traffic management initiative, than a 10-year veteran. And they're able to sort that out. And once they get that sorted out, or as they're sorting that out, they're able to take on more stuff, perhaps a VFR request here, or a release off of Aguadilla there, where developmental might need a little more help. They might have exhausted their mental capacity at that very moment. Higher priority duties. There is nothing more prominent or deserving of a controller's time than an emergency. And we know as soon as the emergency comes on frequency, we start immediately shedding other things or other low priority items, such as VFR request. We tell aircraft, please remain on the ground. If Aguadilla calls for a release, we're going to tell them to hold for release because we are there working on getting information from the aircraft concerned, coordinating it with the necessary parties, ensuring that it is reported to the supervisor and everybody kind of stops what they're doing and takes care of that emergency. Again, higher priority duties. And number 6 is kind of the catch-all, the physical inability to scan and detect situations falling in this category. There's going to be situations that you have never experienced before in training, and that's just the nature of the beast. You will use your good judgment, and you will just keep on keeping on and working things as you know how. But again, if you are establishing and working on perfecting your scan, you'll catch most of it. But then again, there are things you're going to miss because we are only human. Again, 2 eyes and 2 ears and 3 people in a sector team compared to dozens of airplanes, there are things that are going to slip through the cracks. But at the end of the day, we have our primary mission to ensure that we're separating aircraft, and we understand that things may not always be stacked in our favor, and that's what this list is all about. Yet we still press on, and we continue giving the best service that we can given the circumstances. Let's explore this a little bit further as we make our way through Chapter 2 in the next slide. Now that we've gotten the mission statement out of the way and we know our primary purpose when we sit down in the chair and plug in, let's make our way to the duty priority. 212, subparagraph A says, give first priority to separating aircraft and issuing safety alerts as required in this order. Good judgment must be used in prioritizing all other provisions of this order based on the requirements of the situation at hand. Awesome. We can clearly see now that our primary duty aligns with our purpose. Separating aircraft, that's pretty easy. We understand that's just a different way of saying making sure aircraft don't trade paint, don't collide into one another. Excellent. That is our bar. Secondly, issuing safety alerts. That's important as well because when we issue safety alerts, we are ensuring that aircraft don't get in unsafe proximity to other aircraft, each other, or terrain. So again, we are avoiding the development or the potential for aircraft to collide into one another. So our duty properly aligns with our purpose. Everything else, it mentions good judgment. So everything else that we're going to do, we're going to make sure that we use good judgment whenever we start talking about other items. Talking about safe, orderly, and expeditious flow of traffic, that's where our good judgment comes in. Another subjective term, but another opportunity for you to define what that means to you and to set a course in constant improvement to that end. You, the controller, can say, hey, you know what? I know exactly what I need to do once I am through with ensuring that all the traffic I have on frequency is properly separated and there are no pending safety alerts to give. I can go and start finding good work to do and plying my trade as I know how. This note is certainly worth reading. So let's take a look at what the note says, because it offers some exposition, some further elucidation, if you will. Because there are so many variables involved, it is virtually impossible to develop a standard list of duty priorities that would apply uniformly to every conceivable situation. Each set of circumstances must be evaluated on its own merit, and when more than one action is required, controllers must exercise their best judgment based on the facts and circumstances known to them. That action, which is most critical from a safety standpoint, is performed first. Again, the 7110 is not trying to box you in outside of keeping your aircraft separated and giving them safety alerts. Everything that follows after that is truly up to you. And it's up to you to define and to set a course and perform, essentially. It is not going to try to cover every conceivable situation. It would be impossible, but it is a very large document and there's a lot of things in there. So naturally, it's your goal to become as knowledgeable as you can in the order, but just realize that outside of your primary objective and your primary duty, you are there to do everything else that is required of you. But the 7110 is not going to try to tell you how to do it. And if you're a developmental watching this is where the guidance and the institutional knowledge from your instructor and your training team comes in, and they will guide you. And that also kind of sets the stage for what we're going to do in a few slides down the road whenever we walk through a session today. We're going to casually talk about one person's opinion of how to conduct themselves as they give ATC service in a practice session. So really excited about this. We're starting to put the pieces together. I'll see you next slide for additional exploration. Continue to dissect section 212. Some things will become abundantly clear and almost familiar to us based upon the primary purpose of the ATC system. Keep in mind, because our duties are aligning with those exactly, and subparagraph B, C, and D is no exception. B especially provides support to national security and homeland defense activities to include but not limited to reporting of suspicious and or unusual aircraft or pilot activities. This is very crucial to a facility like San Juan Center, where an island facility cut off from the continental United States, surrounded by foreign airspace. Even the airspace that makes up New York Oceanic and Miami is international airspace that is delegated, and Miami and New York are the responsible facilities to provide ATC services in those areas, but it's still international airspace. Also, we are surrounded by air navigation service providers that are non-US. They are foreign facilities. So you are probably no stranger to seeing some interesting things that take place around the boundary. And whenever they become more than interesting, it is up to you. It is your duty, explicitly defined here, to ensure we report that to the proper authority. Most of the time, you report to the supervisor, and it's up to them and their discretion. They're trained to properly report it and send it up the correct channels, but it is something of note. And again, it aligns perfectly with the primary purpose of the ATC system. C, not so much, because this is the first time we're actually going to talk about weather, but provide and or solicit weather information in accordance with procedures and requirements outlined in this order. So weather can be extremely hazardous to aircraft. I think we all know that by now. You probably witnessed it in your training. So it does come as no surprise that it has made this very much fundamental aspect of our duties. It means that we are responsible to call weather out whenever it's displayed on the radar or on the satellite. It means we disseminate PIREPs and SIGMETs, and we also solicit PIREPs to ensure that we are giving aircraft the opportunity and arming them with the latest weather information and giving them that opportunity to intake what we have. That's why we write a lot of stuff down. We write where the good rides are, where the bad rides are, where there's smooth air, what airways are smooth, all that good stuff. So it comes as no surprise that it has made the list. There is a note that points us to Chapter 4 doesn't do it so explicitly, but it does remind us that we are responsible to become familiar with and stay aware of current weather information needed to perform ATC duties. And a lot of that stuff is outlined in Chapter 4, but it is just reminding us. It's a statement of fact saying, hey, this is probably something that you're going to do anyways, whether that's ensuring that you got the IDS pages and are familiar with the segments that might be in the airspace or the closed airways due to weather, or you're aware of large weather activity that might be outside of our airspace, in New York's airspace, or maybe south of the boundary, and letting aircraft know. Subparagraph D says provide additional services to the extent possible, contingent only upon higher priority duties and other factors including limitations of radar, volume of traffic, frequency, congestion, and workload. We've kind of already talked about this. We've beaten this dead horse because we outlined in that numerical list of all the things that we consider, and we compare that to our skill level and our experience and our capacity to take on these additional items. So we kind of covered this as well, but it is good to know that how much our duties are aligned with our primary purpose, and all the things that we do when we provide additional services, we do that in a orderly, safe, and expedient manner. We do it the best way we know how. And we understand that there's always going to be situations, i.e., higher priority duties that might trump what we aim to do. But it reminds us here. So just about everything we just talked about should be familiar to you because we outlined it once before. Everything is starting to line up. Next slide, we'll take a look at some examples of this, and then we'll apply the other items, the items that there are no explicit guidance for, in our walkthrough scenario. I'll see you there. This slide is an illustration summary of all the points we've been talking about so far, all presentation long. If you look at the image to the far right, you see a little snapshot of Sector 4 and 6. And out of all the possible aircraft that may be talking to you, may be requesting something from you, your eyes should be scanning target to target and scanning for conflicts. And you'll see that Pacific Air 6278 and Iberia 6500 are both at flight level 360 and are on a converging course. Once you become aware of this conflict, this pending conflict, as these aircraft start to converge, it is incumbent upon you to fix it. It is our primary purpose. It is our primary duty as well. Our primary purpose is to ensure that we don't let aircraft collide. Our duty is to separate aircraft. So let's ensure positive separation. And that could easily be done by possibly descending Iberia 6500, knowing they land Santo Domingo. That would solve the case. The point is, you do not want to move on to anything else or do your best to limit distractions from American 2190 who might have something for you. Maybe they want 36 or they want a ride report at flight level 320. That is definitely important, but is not nearly as important as you reconciling this pending conflict. If you move your eyes southwest of that image to the low altitude alert, you'll see this, and this happens quite a bit. An aircraft is arriving Ponce on the RNAV, the MSAW appears in line 0 of the data block, and you get a little audible alarm. It is up to you to take a look, draw your attention, and focus in and see if it's a bona fide MSAW. And you can go into the phraseology, low altitude alert, JetBlue 745, check your altitude immediately. The minimum vectoring altitude in your area is 5,800. Ponce altimeter missing, or San Juan altimeter 3001, something to that effect. The idea is that you don't get in the habit of just ignoring it. At least take a look and make sure that everything is adding up. If it isn't adding up, suppress the alarm and move on. But it is part of our primary duty. Again, separating aircraft and giving safety alerts. So these first two images that we're covering are very fundamental. The next thing that we do, we take care of weather. We advise aircraft of weather activity, and in the instance of the image to the northeast or the far left corner there, our duty there is to let Silverwing 013, let them know about that weather that's being painted about 12 miles in front of them. and letting them know. Perhaps they want to deviate. Perhaps they're going to beat us to it and ask for a deviation. Perhaps that weather is associated with a SIGMET that we need to disseminate to all aircraft on frequency. If you look down below, Top Gun 1, perhaps they are on a Homeland Security mission, patrolling the boundary, taking a look at something down south, and going operational or going due regard. We will use whatever we have at our disposal or just give them good service to ensure that we support their mission the best way we can. And all of this to say is the last image, the one in the middle, VFR flight following advisories, that's the distraction there. That is the lowest of priorities at the moment. If all of these things were taking place, it would be the wisest thing to ensure that we do not get distracted and start talking to November 787 Romeo Alpha and start putting in a VFR flight plan when we have all these pending things to take care of. Perhaps Top Gun 1 is looking out at a target of interest and they're requesting a radar vector, or they're asking us if our radar shows anything. We definitely want to give that low altitude alert to JetBlue. We talked about how important it is to separate Pacific Air 6278 and Iberia 6500 from each other and not getting distracted by some kind of PIREP report or a request of a ride report at flight level 360 from American 2190. And we certainly understand that Silverwing 013 wants to know about that weather that lies out in front of them. All of these things are important, and it illustrates what we've been talking about. Now, we are about to start the session in the next slide, and it is merely just one controller's idea of walking you through a session of all of the mundane things. You won't see any emergencies, you'll see some conflicts, you won't see any need for traffic or safety alerts, but the important thing is it's going to walk you through in a very light and casual manner of why we do the things that we do. And I believe that it should help you out determine your priorities. Once you take care of all the things we talked about, all of this important stuff, you can then move on to the low-hanging fruit. All the stuff that is up to you whenever you're going out there and looking for things to do. After you take care of the things that are pictured here and all the things we talked about, then you can move on and work the session as you see fit. And that's the way you get better. Looking forward to seeing your thoughts as we make our way to the next slide. We'll see you there.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the San Juan Center Dyson. This is Ready Set Heavy Jet, and I know it's been a while since we last talked, but we are back in the lab and we are going to run a problem together. And we are just going to go over some of the basic phraseology, orientate ourselves with all the subtleties of Sector 2 and 8. As you see here, we have a bit of a bird's eye view. This may not be a normal setting, but let's get started. We'll talk about things as we go. Let's get some altimeters going. How about that? And I'm going to move the preview area so you can see all the keystrokes, just in case if you ever have to do this. Multifunction A. Let's make it a nice standard day. How about that? Nice standard day. Altimeters are hovering above high, so flight level 180 is very much usable. Somebody who's actually reporting the weather at Ponce, so we have that going for us. And good old St. Croix. Actually, we're doing very well, relatively, because even somebody was at Mayaguez taking the hourly weather. So, not missing. If we got a briefing, we would understand that we do have traffic inbound as the targets populate, so I'll just ad-lib it from there, pretending that I did get a relief briefing from the outgoing controller. We can pretend that we have strips here, and we can ad-lib anything else. Try to get the fundamentals. And as we see here, we have the targets populating, and let's determine some priorities, okay? We have our altimeter setting, and as the targets populate here, and that's all of them for now, we're going to take a quick scan before we start talking. Moving from left to right, We have United 569 under track control, direct Aqaba. They're going to be reaching 12,000 soon, and we know they're going to keep their descent up. We have Taino 60. IFR helicopter looks like they're direct St. Thomas at 5,000. They're going to be put in a handoff status. Let's do that now since that's pressing, and we're going to give traffic with this advisory. Couple 451 is climbing direct Sato. It's going to need handoff to Santo Domingo. We can get rid of United 1203 whenever we check their strip to make sure that time and altitude are there. Oh, look at this. We have American 1136 at 33 direct Slugo and JetBlue 1071 converging, and looks like they are rather in conflict. Okay, that's priorities here. Looks like we have a target coming up at Geese, a target coming up on St. Kitts. Silver is going to need switch, checking time and altitude in the strip. Like Cargo 325 is direct Beef, and we're going to APRAC that because they're descending to 8. Caribbean's happy at 34, and Vistage is happy at 41. Let's get started. Let's start this one. American 1136, descend now to flight level 310, then cross Slugo at 130. And they'd read that back. And we would check that read back because we had some interesting numbers there, kind of in reverse. So let's start that. There we go. Taino 6 air traffic, 12 o'clock, 5 miles opposite direction. Bonanza 4,500 BFR. Bonanza 54 Bravo traffic, 12 to 1 o'clock, 5 miles opposite direction. Blackhawk 5,000. Santo Domingo Center. You know what? Before I even get the line hot, let's get United. Let's get control for United and keep them going down. R6, R8 request. Request control. Canada 569. R control. SX. Thank you. Just ad-libbing their dialogue as well. United 569 to send and maintain 3,000. And that will make them happy. Now let's hand off these guys. Santo Domingo Center, San Juan Center, Sato Sector, handoff. Domingo. Northeast Sato, Copa 451, climb file 360. They'd say radar contact, and we would get rid of Copa. Copa 451, contact Santo Domingo Center, 124.3. Good day. Let's get rid of United 1203, right? We're going to check the time. We're going to compare that against the strip there. And that's 09. 010 is what the strip is showing. United 1203. Radar service terminal contact. Curacao Center 124.1. Good day. One took the handoff on Taino 60, Taino 60, the San Juan altimeter, 2993, contact San Juan approach, 119.4, good day. Somebody gave American 1512 the code, that was our outgoing controller buddy, so let's call them radar. American 1512, radar contact, 12 miles northwest of Geese, say altitude, or something like that if they didn't do a proper check-in. We solved this conflict here. Let's call R7 and APRAC Night Cargo 325, direct B filing. R7, R2, APRAC. Night Cargo 325, 8,000, direct B filing. There he is. Let's get them in handoff status there. And let's take the handoff on Mount 8105, right? No harm there. They're still very much within approach's airspace, but that's all right. And let's pretend information X-ray is current at Borinquen, and let's make sure United 569 have it. United 569 information X-ray current at Aguadilla, the Aguadilla altimeter 2902, and it will verify you have X-ray, or something to that effect. There are controls, so we could clear them for the approach, but let's just wait on that for a little bit. We got American going down. We took care of that problem. We APRAC that, and it's in handoff status now. And it looks like we have emerging target procedure between JetBlue and Caribbean. So let's get Caribbean in handoff status there so we don't forget about it. Now let's pretend Dominican Wing 2200 did a fine check-in over St. Kitts, and let's respond to that. Dominican Wing 2200, San Juan Center and Gabar, squawk 4221. And just for fun here, let's pretend that they don't wait till Gabar, and they just squawk that. So it's easier for us, even though we shouldn't be changing codes in other people's airspace. Let's just pretend they did that on their own volition. Let's check, since our eyes are over in this part of the sector, let's check the time here, 16:13 and 15 Flight level 150 for Silver Wing 0104. I look at the strip, that checks out. Silver Wing 0104, radar service terminate, contact lobbers and approach 121.3. There it is. Excellent. We don't have to look at Taino 60. Well, we could look at them just a little bit longer. We could pretend that this aircraft hasn't called us up yet. Corendon 5997 is who we are expecting at 37 at Scapa. So let's wait for them to call. We know Copa's gone. So let's get United all set up for the approach clearance. United 569, 7 miles from Aqaba, cross Aqaba at or above 3,000, cleared. RNAV runway 8 approach. And they would read that back. And let's put the command in here. First, let's slow them down. Let's pretend that the computer is able to slow them down. So it's United 69, velocity, let's slow them down to 210, and let's put the procedure in there now. And that is RPO duties that I'm also doing as well. Very good. And let's put the approach moniker in there. Since there's no CIDs down here, we'll put the ECID command to inhibit it. And there we go. Dominican Wing 2200, radar contact Gubbar. Very good. Let's call this traffic out now. Corendon hasn't called us. No worries. We're expecting them. We know they're there. And it's not hurting anybody. We have to watch out for this. Just make sure that their transition across the delta does not need to be pointed out with Aguadilla. They're well above the class delta, the surface area. So we're just watching that, and we'll get rid of them in due time. United's a little high, but that's probably an RPO issue. So, let's just pretend 69 altitude, 030. There we go. And just solve that. That's okay, just for sake of realism. We don't have to watch Taino no more. We are climbing the mountain, and let's do this traffic advisory. Merging target procedure. Caribbean Airlines 528 traffic, 11 o'clock, 25 miles, southeastbound, Airbus A321neo, level 330. JetBlue 1071, traffic 1 o'clock, 25 miles, northbound, MAX 8, level 340, or Boeing 737 MAX 8. And let's pretend Corendon finally called us. I think I might be butchering that call sign, but nonetheless, Corendon 5997, San Juan Center, squawk 4545. Say altitude. Just pretending that oftentimes we don't get the proper check-in or all the information on the first go, so we are trying to be efficient as possible. United looks like they're stabilized on the approach now, so we're not going to keep them any longer, right? We don't have to retain them. There's no pending conflicts. Communication with them is no longer necessary, so now is a perfect time to have them go over to Aguadilla Tower. United 569, radar service terminated. Contact Aguadilla Tower 124.905. Good day. Mark the strip, offset it, and wait for that downtime. Let's get, we already did. Caribbean Airlines 528 is in handoff status. We see American doing just fine on their descent down. We have Dominican on Yankee 349, no need to give direct there, they're doing just fine. And look, Corendon is happy, and let's get them radar identify. Corendon 5997, radar contact 12 miles northeast Scapa. And we would get all that wonderful information, maybe their OPAL estimate. Do R4 and D4 a favor. Scanning more, we can draw Copa 451's track. They're very much within the confines of Santo Domingo's airspace. We know that United 569 is gone and terminated with the tower. 45 Bravo is making their way westbound, probably off the Punta Cana or thereabouts, so they're doing just fine. Mountains climbing. Americans making their restriction. Night cargo is in handoff status. We gave the traffic here if we wanted to give it again because they didn't report in sight. That's a fine service to do between Caribbean Airlines 528 and JetBlue 1071. Silver Wing 0104 is terminated, gone. And we have somebody creeping up on Hillary. And before that we do it, since our eyes are there, we are going to check the time. 1617, my strip says 1618. We're very much okay with that. And I think termination is perfect for our VistaJet. We see the strip says 41 and the time compares. We're going to talk to the strip, taking our pen and marking it radar service terminated and all that good stuff. VistaJet 516, radar service terminated. Contact PARCO Center 123.7. Good day. And since we see that we have a target creeping up on Hillary, looking at the strips, who are we expecting? I know you don't see the tablets, so let me bring that up for you. Bringing up the tablets here, we see American 2295 is doing. American 2295, San Juan Center. No big deal. They'll call us when they're ready. Night Cargo 325, contact sound approach 128.65, but before you go, the B file altimeter 29903. That's good, right? We give an altimeter setting once in our area of jurisdiction. Approach will probably do it. They're landing B, they'll probably get the ATIS, but that's okay. Now let's pretend that American has called us. American 2295, San Juan Center, squawk 6313, safe flight level. And there it is. They'd say, they give a good check-in, or maybe they've omitted the altitude, but and we'll get that going. Okay, scanning. United 1203 has left the confines of our center and is safely within Curacao, so we can drop track, excuse me, mouthful there. Caribbean Lines 528, contact San Juan Center 134.3. Easy enough, right? American's doing just fine. American 2295, radar contact 5 miles northwest Hillary. And our eyes are back here within Sector 2. And looks like we got a pending conflict here. Look at these two. Dominican Wings 2200 and American 1512. Two MAX 8s wired around the Gesso area. Let's take care of that now. Conventional wisdom states that both aircraft are still very far away from their destinations. Who's closer to their destination is Dominican. They land Santo Domingo, Sato Direct, or something like that. Penalize them? I don't know. American 1512, they've been flying for a little bit. Since Georgetown, Chettygagan, we can ask them to climb. You're going to have that conversation with the pilot. You caught the conflict, great job, and now you just have that conversation. American 1512, are you flight level 360? If the answer is yes, just take care of it there. They still have a long way to fly to Miami. Dominican Wings still has a considerable amount of flying time to Santo Domingo, and they can easily do the same thing too. But you caught the conflict and you're taking action to resolve it. But let's just say American 1512 is sporting, they have a long way to fly, they'd like higher. Boom. American 1512, climb maintain flight level 360. I'm a 360 American 1512, and that's the first time I played the pilot, but there it is. And they are starting their descent. We're expecting to hear a downtime from United 569. Looks like they're in the runway environment. And we can almost drop the tag, or at least suppress the full data block for the night cargo. Silver is within Guadalupe's airspace. We're going to delete that track. One thing we do have to do, if you would see the flight progress strip for Crendon 5997, is at least verify, right? An extra service to our brothers and sisters in arms in R4 is to get the full information. The requested altitude, Mach number, and estimate for OPAL. And we certainly have to verify. That is our main duty. Crendon 5997, verify after OPAL, you fly direct 5Z, or something to that effect. And there it is. And now we verified it. And all is well with the world. Mountain looks like the pilot and me, or maybe I even omitted their check-in. But let's just pretend that we climb Mountain 8105. They're on Route 2. They're not hurting anybody. Maybe we'll give them direct to bar. I don't know. American 1512, even though they're still far from Slugo, we know that sometimes the D side, D2, gives control to Juliana. On this particular occasion, they're not very busy. There's no other aircraft. But then again, we're in the lab in a very sterile environment. American 1136, radar service terminated. Contact Juliana Tower. Let's pretend the approach is open. Contact Juliana approach 128.905. There it is. They're gone. And we're doing good. Taking a quick scan here of our boundary. Let's pretend Aguadilla called us. All right, Aguadilla. All right, United 569 on the ground. We'd be very happy to hear that. Thank you. United 569 is on the ground. And we take the strip down, mark the time and everything like that. Our VFR aircraft is slowly making their way over to Santo Domingo. All is well there. Mountain 8105 is doing just fine. Caribbean Lines 528 can, well, you know what? They're crossing the boundary right now. The R2, R4 boundary, they're in the Jazz, and we are going to just take that target out. JetBlue 1071 is doing just fine. Going towards Hillary. Let's check that time, huh? Let's check the time and strip. We have time to do it. Hillary showing at 1628. I have 1630, and both are at 33. So good catch. VistaJet is creeping up on Hillary, so we're going to be able to get rid of that target soon. And look at this. We have somebody creeping up on Anata. So if we were to look here, who is creeping up on Anata at flight level 360 is none other than Azul 8706. Let's pretend they call us. San Juan Center at Azul 8706, level 360, South Anata. And that is a wonderful check-in. A wonderful Brazilian check-in. Azul 8706, San Juan Center, squawk 2601 at Anata. And just for sake, since we are both the pilot and the controller in this instance, let us just put the beacon in now. Azul 8706, radar contact 5 miles south of Anata. Perfect. Look at that. We are all caught up, and we are very much ahead of schedule. If we feel that services will be degraded by continuing to have Dominican wings on R2's frequency, we can switch them over to Sector 8, which might be appropriate. Dominican wing 2200, change to my frequency 118.75. Very good. And right now, everybody is just happy. We see the Cessna 408, wonderful new airplane for the fleet here at Mountain Air. And I see no harm in giving a bar. So let's do that. Mountain 8105, excuse me, look at me, introducing you to a pitfall. Dandy. Gets us all the time, right? Mountain 8105, clear direct Dandy, right? We don't want them, we don't have to do this point out, right, with the route of flight, the way it goes through Juliana's airspace. So let's put them over Dandy. They'll rejoin Green 633. No need for any kind of extraneous coordination because we know D2 is probably busy right now. And knowing that we're going to give that clearance and looking like they're up to speed, 140 knots across the ground, we can get D2 a fine estimate of 1719 or even 1720 because it's 50, right? Round up. And D2 can take care of what they have to with Mountain 8105. So Mountain 8105, clear direct Dandy. They're doing it, and we are doing just fine. I'm not going to put slant Dandy in the scratch pad. I am going to retain Jessica Barr, knowing it's the boundary. American Juliana actually did not descend them so early, which is always a pleasant surprise. Let's pretend they did now, and they are within the vertical and lateral confines of Juliana's approach controls. Delegated airspace. I just simulated a little bit with them taking them and descending them, and we are there. Let's put Corendon 5997 in handoff status. My go-to is whenever aircraft is creeping up on the island, the south coast of Puerto Rico, or the south coast of even St. Croix down here, or just an imaginary line that extends eastward and westward on the south coast of Puerto Rico, I'm getting ready to say goodbye. Because R4 would want to talk to that aircraft in the event I was so busy that I was not able to get the estimates. I know that R4 wants to talk to that airplane as soon as possible, get that valuable information, because chances are if R4 is busy, D4 is busy, and they are going to want to get that information as quickly to the D side as possible so the D side can make the call to New York and have that aircraft taken care of, signed, sealed, delivered, and in a state of sound coordination. Scanning our boundaries here, VistaJet is very much outside of our airspace, and we're going to drop the track. Corendon 5997. Contact San Juan Center 134.3. Good day. And yet now we just continue scanning, constantly scanning, seeing what's going on. And there isn't too much. We're in a pretty good state right now. We took care of this conflict because this conflict is developing. And it's so much easier when you catch these right away. But even if you didn't catch it till now, you still have plenty of time to take care of this. A mere 2,000 feet, in dire circumstances, even 1,000 feet is good. Be wrong for the direction of flight for both of these aircraft heading westbound, but you would have taken care of it just in the event they weren't able to go up 2,000 feet. And we know aircraft cannot always climb because of their performance, but we do know that aircraft can always descend. We haven't left the plane up there yet. Double check the JetBlue's time. We already did it, but just in case, because guess what? We can get rid of them. The current time is 21, coming up on 22. They're leaving at 29, 7 minutes. Get them talking to Piarco. JetBlue 1071, radar service terminating, contact Piarco Center 123.7. That's good, because guess what? We have a departure there, and oh my, it is a Palco 7 departure right underneath our mountain who's heading direct to bar. If we would have left them on route 2, this would not be a conflict. Chances are it's not going to be a conflict because even though Royal is climbing very good, 2,500 feet per minute, we're going to take the handoff and we're just going to keep them at 10,000. We're going to even call R7 and let them know. R7, R2, reference Air Royal 808, going to maintain 10,000 for traffic at 11. Something like that. Just let them know they're going to be keeping them at 10, not for very long, but keeping them at 10 inside their.
That's it. Stop the clock and unplug. A job well done. Scenario is over. Today, we took a look at this scenario, even though it wasn't the busiest one we've ever seen. It was just the right amount of traffic where we were able to discuss each and every action that we executed. Why we did it, a little explanation on why it was the right call at the right time, why those aircraft needed our attention, the way we moved from one target to the other, the way we scanned with a purpose and we took care of things. All of that stuff is tremendously important as it relates to our priorities. Even though we didn't see any emergencies or the need to give any kind of safety alert or resolve any major conflicts, we were still able to see how our priorities, the ones that are dictated in the .65, mix with the priorities that we determine as we scan from aircraft to aircraft. A lot of fun. It really is, once you start mastering and really getting the hang and perfecting your scan, how good it feels to be able to determine your priorities, go out and do them, and have the sector to be completely quiet. It is certainly a goal to attain. Some days you won't get there because you'll be very busy, but there are times wherever you get on top and you stay on top, oh, what a feeling that is. Certainly appreciate you spending time with me today as we discussed the proper way to dissect a part of chapter 2 of the .65 and determine the purpose, the reason why we are in the chair plugged in, the reason our duties are outlined the way they are, and how it all ties into an actual session. I hope you bridge that gap. Wish you nothing but success as you continue to make your way through the training process. Please check back for additional videos, and always very thankful for the time that we spend together where we're able to talk candidly about this wonderful profession. Hope you all stay well, stay awesome, and we'll see you again soon.